All right, good afternoon, traders, and welcome to the Pro Trader webinar today with Sam from CryptoLifer. We've had him a bunch of times in the past, and we're going to have him now weekly on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Really excited about this. Really happy to have him here. A great trader and just a really positive, great attitude that it's contagious to be around. So there's a lot of things to take a look at. Let's just go through here and give an introduction and some links for you to CryptoLifer, and then we'll turn it over to him and let him take it away. Basically, through detailed studies of technical analysis in cryptocurrency, Sam learned how to become a profitable trader, which allowed him to trade full time. Since then, he's been able to devote his life to helping others achieve the same freedom he's achieved through his crypto trading. I have a couple links here for you for his website, cryptolifer.io, and his YouTube channel here. I'll put these into the chat so you can reach out to him directly if you like. The general disclosure is all Bookmap Limited materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure: trading futures, equities, and digital currencies involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. All right, so let me get Sam's stream up here, and we'll let him take it away.
Hello.
All right, we're set to go.
Okay, cool. So they can see me and my screen, or just the screen, or does it? I mean, I guess mainly the screen is the main thing to look at, right?
Yeah.
So welcome everybody. One main thing just to kind of talk about is like everyone wants to become a successful trader, right? So when I wanted to become a successful trader, I asked myself what the word success meant and who was successful. And there's many different realms of success. Or what I considered success was being able to wake up, provide for my family, make more than average, more than the average person, right? Not why would I live an average life? So make more than average, but not have to do what the average person does to do that in a unique way, right? And if I could work from home, why not? If you don't have to get in 9 to 5 traffic, why not? And I started studying successful people, and I found, and even, some people were sports players. As a young kid, I got, brought into sports like most people. Being from New England, Boston, luckily I got into, the influence of Tom Brady and the Patriots and even the Red Sox breaking the curse. And a lot of awesome things happened while I watched sports. And you'd be like, what are you talking about sports for? This is a book map. I'm just kind of bringing in kind of my story and how I got into trading and how I got into Bookmap and a quick version of it. I'm not going to sit here for an hour. But I started studying successful people, and what made them successful was they did something over and over again, right? So they kept doing it, and they kept doing it, and they kept doing it. Hopefully there's a passion behind that. I found I had a passion for numbers and just probability-wise, too. I like watching charts, and I like watching the numbers on the chart. There's something that it does something for me. Some people, it's, whether I'm like, there's something wrong with me or something, but it's just, for my mind and for the way I look at the world, it makes sense. So as I started trading, I started looking at patterns, and I fell in love with the idea that there was trading patterns involved. And I started using patterns as probability, and then I started using momentum indicators. But again, like I never knew what was really flags before they exist. And then it gets into liquidity. Well, what's really going on? Because as you get deeper, you ask more and more questions if you tackle each segment of trading. And at the end, not the end, but once I believe 4 to 5 years in, some people earlier, some people later, depending on their evolution of trading, they eventually want to know what's going on behind the scenes, right? I love Bookmap's website. If you just go to bookmap.com and it says, like, see what the candles are hiding. Great way to market the product, in my humble opinion, because whenever I'm trying to show a beginner what's happening, I just show them that. And when the scan comes over, you see candles, I see liquidity, and the biggest Orders rule the market, right? So this morning, even the last few nights, if you had opened up Bookmap and looked at it, I do it by the hundreds, kind of even by like the 40, sometimes a little too small, my tick size, some people. But I like to see it, and then when I zoom in and out, I don't know if everyone uses it exactly. I mean, we probably derive the data similarly, like what's happening, but we may have like different setups, different things we look at. I mainly look at Bitcoin because uh, you know, um, I trade altcoins and they move with Bitcoin mainly. And I also trade Bitcoin a lot. I'll trade whatever the market gives me. If Bitcoin's really tight and choppy and it's making it hard to trade altcoins, then I'll raise the leverage a little bit and trade Bitcoin on a smaller time frame. You get it? And I'll try to still get the same 3 to 7% on a trade or something. But if Bitcoin's more volatile, has more movement, maybe I'll trade spot or 3x leverage. You know what I mean? I might lower the leverage and take advantage of what the market gives me. So for me, I'm not a huge leverage trader. To me, leverage is just a tool to use. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing I say and do should be taken as financial advice. But me, leverage trading is just a tool to get a little more. Here's a cool example of, a funny example that just came to me. But and I like surfing. I love using a surfer equation to trading because trades come in waves, right? Sometimes it's volatile and up and down. Sometimes it's flat and there's not a lot of movement. Very similar to the ocean, you know. But the idea behind trading is, say you're surfing and you like surfing bigger waves with a bigger board, and you go to a beach that like the waves aren't that big, so you put in your surfboard and you grab a boogie board. To me, leverage trading is kind of like that, and you might be like, what is he talking about again? Another funny metaphor, but you'll find out that's kind of how I talk. And if you get to know me or watch my show, uh, but the idea is you can surf smaller waves and attempt to get a similar percentage. That's all. I just use leverage when I need to use it. Not, I don't have to use it. It's like it's a tool at the right time. You know what I mean? For instance, if Bitcoin's been flat and in a range from 30,000, like it's been 30,000, 31,000, up and down, then when it gets to the low point, trade the range with some leverage back to the upper top of the range. You know what I mean? Uh, but if Bitcoin's more volatile, or if I'm expecting a bigger move, I may have really small leverage, or I may even just be grabbing Bitcoin up spot and just getting a lot of spot Bitcoin. I'm a firm believer you don't need leverage, even though I know I may be bringing it up. All right. So this morning, in the last few days, Bitcoin Bookmap has been showing liquidity to the downside. Like if you just zoomed in or out, and when I tell people it's an order book heat map, if you were to use a pair of infrared goggles and you saw a group of people behind the tree, they would be dark red. So if people represent orders, the darker the order, the more people are there, right? And most people probably know that. We're in a Bookmap webinar. But if anyone's new or just, if want to explain it to a friend and wants a fast, quick way, I think that's like a fun, easy way to explain Bookmap, heat map, order book. And so what we're looking for is just, ideas, ways to identify liquidity. What I love to personally do is not look at Bookmap first and do my technical analysis. And I like to use the word corroborate. Like, to me, it's like a detective. Every day when I wake up, when I find out or attempt to look at where Bitcoin's going, I'm just looking at probabilities. Nobody in the room, no trader should ever look anyone dead in the face and tell them they know where Bitcoin's going. The second I watch a YouTuber, any other person out there, and they're like, "Oh, we hit this level, then we're gonna hit here tomorrow." I drew my Elliott wave. We're gonna hit the top of the wave, the bottom, and like this is the. It's always like, I'm like, let's see what happens tomorrow and take it one step at a time. So that's why I do Bitcoin every day on my channel, and that's why in my trading group, 5 hours later, you're gonna get an update from me. And and I'm going to continue to kind of just go at the price action because price action changes every day. There's certain parameters. Like right now, I'm watching the 3-day 200 SMA, and as long as we stay above that, I'm bullish. But if we break that, I'll change. I'll be like, that's a substantial idea, and that could turn us back bearish. So I'm always watching every day to see certain levels get held or broken. And if key levels break on local area, then I know that it's likely we're going to get a break, to maybe further down. So even today, we started today, and I love the back testing tool. It's fun, but we started the day with like this little flag on the 15, but look, it made an M pattern. M's are known to go to the downside. And you were at the top of a pattern too, and you got overbought on the stochastics. I whipped up Bookmap, and Bookmap also showed me that there was liquidity to the downside. Like simple, right? When I first used Bookmap, I was a little overwhelmed at first, not overwhelmed, slightly, because there's a lot of parameters and settings, and you're not sure what you're doing, and and sometimes it is like, you keep it simple. Like, there's more orders down here than up here. Like when you zoom into the book and you just see like there's just not a lot of cells up top, right? And some days I can just zoom in and I'll just look at the red and green and try to get an example of like, and I can see there's just more blobs here, right? Like if you looked at this blob and this blob, that's a huge, that blob is fatter, bigger, and wider. If that was like, if you were looking at money flow on another indicator, that's similar to money flow. Like there's more money in this area than there is in that area. Okay. So I've learned in time, and I'm not, and again, I've seen liquidity down here and the price action still rip up. So I tell everyone, Bookmap is not 100%. You don't do exactly what Bookmap tells you to do just because. But if I can start building a set of probabilities in my favor and then I get this, I can't tell you how many times it's helped me add to a short or not make a trade. Like earlier today, I was in a long. I closed the long on my live stream. We were at 30,090 or something. And I closed the long because I could see so much liquidity below me. And and I'm always on my live, and I'm like, I wouldn't make a long, I wouldn't open up a long between this and the liquidity. There's likely going to be a long squeeze in here. There's likely a lot of people that are long, and the price is going to push down. And I can't tell you how many times I've been on my live, and I've pointed this out, and within an hour to 2 hours later, or even sometimes 20 minutes later, this ball is chewing into this liquidity zone. So you can finally understand, and then you'll eventually get a divergence. You'll get cumulative volume delta will begin to rise. You'll start to kind of, you'll see this change. And what I look for too is then I look for the liquidations. The liquidation indicator really is the special sauce. Once they added that and I started adding that, it's still a fun piece of my live stream that I love to add in. It's something not everybody has in their live, as and it, what I so right here you're watching. And there's liquidity down here. So then what's funny is an hour later, you'll see the short squeeze happen. It happens when you enter this liquidity zone. I mean, the long squeeze, forgive me. It will happen when you enter this liquidity zone, and you'll start seeing accounts get liquidated. And what was even taught to me by, people here at Bookmap, and which makes sense, is like I'd look for a liquidation, maybe like, let's say $600,000 and 15 accounts gets liquidated. And then you'll come up and you'll get a lower low on price action, and you'll maybe get less liquidations, right? And that will tell me that we're entering maybe a possible place to long because we're exhausting the liquid, So, and you'll also get, I can't put an actual number on this because I haven't put it through a system. But the more you watch Bookmap and the more liquidations you watch, now I've watched hundreds of these liquidations on the actual Bookmap screen too, not only just the candle bodies. And so like today I was short the market, and I said, market doesn't look good. It's more likely we move to the downside. And then what's interesting is I drew before we went short, and even close the long. Like sometimes maybe you don't open a trade, but sometimes maybe you close a trade, And this is where Bookmap comes into play. It gives you that extra bit of insurance. And it's probable because you can see it. It's not like it's like you have ships are coming. You're seeing actual liquidity. And I said ships are coming. I'm thinking a funny metaphor again. And my mind's always kind of traveling through metaphors. But you're looking, maybe back in the 17th century, and like the enemy's coming, which is liquidity, right? Like people making orders, right? And you look at the binoculars and you can see there's like 50 sailboats entering the harbor. I mean, you're probably going to get attacked, right? Like. Bookmap's similar. Like you can see the ships coming. Like you can see the liquidity. You can decide to go against it if you're not. It doesn't always mean it's 100%. But even today, so like you drew this 15-minute. Okay, can this little flag save the day? Could you maybe make a shoulder, head and shoulder? I'm open-minded. But once you made the M pattern there, and we saw the liquidity to the downside, and then I had this drawn already, this trend line, and it was like, well, where do we go? We're gonna come test this trend line, right? And so with technical analysis, and we did wick down, would have wicked down, and we got bought back up on the wick too, which is pretty crazy. But the idea behind it is through technical analysis, and now look, this candle bounced and these two candles bounced here. Like, how did I know earlier today, two hours ago, or about an hour and a half ago, that like this would be a bounce area for these two candles, right? Number one, had I had Bookmap open at the time, you would have seen liquidations occurring, okay? And being someone who watches Bookmap a lot, which you will get an edge. The more you use Bookmap, you'll get an edge because it's just more data you're feeding your subconscious, and you'll be able to make better decisions on that. But again, now look, this big buy order just comes in now. This deep red 29,000. Now we're at 26,680 now, right? And you can see the plans. Wow, it does look like we may start to go a little lower here. Okay. So later today, when I see if I do see 29,000, 29.2, I mean, it wasn't a surprise to me. You know, I could see the orders here. So it helps you move with big money. It helps you realize where people that have more money than you are planning on moving the market. And it gives you a visualization to plan around your trades. And again, I don't open Bookmap up blindly and just open a short. And maybe I'd like to try one day. I'd like to just blindly call it. I like to do some of these, like, because the more I trade, the more I like to peel off things that I've added on over time and make it more and more simple. But like, I'd love to open up a Bookmap account one day, call it Bookmap, make an email like Bookmap or something, and just only do whatever liquidity says. There are days where I've seen the liquidity here and we've still ripped up on a short squeeze, and you're like, oh, that's not likely. That's not supposed to happen. So the market never does exactly what you want it to do, and it never does exactly what it should. But over time, it tends to make patterns that you can eventually get yourself involved in. The key is you find the probabilities by being here all the time. It's sad. I just want to tell people there's this like easy fix to trading, and you can buy the right indicator, and you can go in and out. And again, there is that savvy swing trader that can work another job and get in and out and make some money. But if you really want to like trade for a living and like live it and breathe it, which is like, more than just the money, it's the freedom of being your own person, your own income setter, like whatever you want to work more, you want to trade more. I believe that the more you look at the market, there's off days where I don't trade, but I still play with the market. I may make a mental trade, or I may just open up a smaller trade. Like for me, a small trade is not trading. Like I may just throw a couple $100 at an idea, a bounce off a moving average or something like that. But it would be interesting to just open up one account and just short every time there was liquidity low, long every time there was liquidity high, and just kind of give it like, very light risk management and see how Bookmap does. Because in general, when it doesn't go down to this liquidity zone, I'm usually baffled. I'm usually like, oh, that's, it's funny. I'm saying that in realization with everyone here now, like, because I use Bookmap every day, 7 days a week. Like, I can't tell you the last day I didn't use Bookmap. It's probably been over a year. And maybe one day I forgot it, or like I was traveling and like I couldn't load it. You know what I mean? Like, but I use Bookmap every day. It does. The only thing about Bookmap, it does become like an addicting piece of your work. Like once you bring in Bookmap, and that lets you know how good of a tool it is. Because if it wasn't so good, why do I want to wake up and see it every morning? Because obviously it gave me an extra piece of data that I'm using that's helping me. Otherwise, forget it. It just looks fun. It's fun to sell. It's fun to talk about on my live stream, right? But no, like it's a lifestyle. Bookmap became a lifestyle for me, and that's why I really cherish the relationship there, because you kind of get me to use something that I love every day, and there's like a respect between me and Bookmap there, because they kind of introduced me to a product that I believe is like a useful and addictive tool, because I want to see the liquidity. I make a trade, I don't open up Bookmap. It's kind of foolish for me, because I have the option to get more data. Why would I not take the option to get that data, right? So like today, like if you were to ask me what's going to happen to Bitcoin, well, I'd look at what I'm seeing, right? I look at some key levels. Here was a swing low. We broke that swing low. We even wicked lower. So once you make a swing low on a trend, you'd expect a lower high. So you have your low, you have your high, you have a lower low. You'd expect a lower high. So you're picking some type of lower bounce and then possibly a lower low. So I'd be on like the 7 or the smaller time frame, and Now I'm looking for what are called continuation patterns or reversal patterns, right? I want an indication. I want price to give me a probability, you know. And I'm cheating a little bit because I already believe that Bookmap, you know. So like, I'm basically scoping out a bear flag at this point. Because another thing is I've watched price. I have the ability to have watched price action for so long in my life and put so many hours of my life into price action that like I kind of can I can't tell you what it's going to do, right? But price action can't do. I've learned in my lifetime, and sometimes it's hard for me to even convey these things because I'm like, how's the best way to say these to someone else? But here's my best way of explaining it. So and this could be some gold for some people if they can grasp what I'm putting down. But price is here, and we know it's going to drop to here. Well, we don't know, but let's just price drops from here to here. It's like, let's just, price can't just go down. You know, it goes down for a minute, but then what is it going to do? Somewhere in the 5 or the 7, it's going to make a bear flag, right? Or a rising wedge flag, you know, both really considered, and then it's going to break further down. And it's going to make that, those are both continuation patterns that price continues the way it's moving 68% of the time back to the downside, right? So I already know that if price takes a dump, there's a chance 1 minute it will, you know, it could be a straight red candle for a minute, but at one point, I'm going to be able to find a continuation pattern. It starts to condense. At one point, if I get to a small enough time frame, I'm going to find a continuation pattern. And once I find the continuation pattern, I'm then going to find the measured move, right? This is very preemptive right now. Like I'm just very basically projecting this, you know? And my measured move is, look, 29,486, right? And it could even be a bigger fall further down. And then I start looking at my levels of support and resistance. You know, I might zoom out of the 7 and I start looking at my 1 hour time frame. And I start saying, wow, if we break that area, there's just this one level here at 29. And I was like, and then we fall all the way further down, and it comes from these sections of liquidity, right? And some areas, some high volume nodes in the VRVP that I also bring in. Which beautiful thing too is the VRVP will a lot of times give me a big volume node sticking out. Lo and behold, what will that volume node be, or where it would be? It will be pretty much in a liquidity zone that I'm being given by Bookmap, right? So like right there, 25,952, and lo and behold, I mean that's in the crux, that's in the mix, or that's in the main section of this 29,000 to 29,000, 400 area of liquidity, you know. So now I'm like, oh, okay. So now I'm building the idea that a short's coming because I see the liquidity, but I don't blindly short. I'm still looking for a pattern that gives me a high probability that the price will go in my direction. And then I look for momentum too. Like I want to see if I can get the stochastics indicator up into this high momentum area, right? So like earlier today, you had an M pattern, which is a known pattern that breaks to the downside 68% of the time. You had resistance and you came to it twice in a row with, and then this indicator even comes with divergences. I usually find my own, but I added this one that says RSI divs, and it even gave you a bearish divergence there. This hill here was lower than the left hill, so it was a downward trend. Right? And I guess technically still, it sometimes find divergences that I normally wouldn't see, but that's why I use it. But you could kind of, I guess if you use like the downtrend and then it's slightly like it's kind of almost a hidden on the RSI, but needless to say, I don't see a strong divergence there. But the indicator call went out, and needless to say, I don't need a divergence in that situation. I have a high, I come back, I try to breach the previous high, and the indicator tells me that I'm out of momentum. So that's why I love the stochastics RSI. You know, and I look at if you're trading probabilities, then you're playing. It's basically like a scientific experiment each time. That's how I look at it. And so, like, see how price action here goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down, goes up, goes down, and then the stochastics follow, right? So the stochastics are always going to hopefully go up and down. Now, price action's doing whatever it wants. Like, it doesn't have to, it's not staying inside of the dotted line. Like, sometimes it's here, sometimes. But the stochastics are the constant. So what I learned about the stochastics is if they can come to a high, price action resets, and the stochastics come high again like they were before, but the high's lower, you're likely the short's going to win, And look, it came up for another high again, and the stochastics were overbought. At that one moment in time, I'm also seeing a big bunch of liquidity below me, right? I can't tell you how many times that like I've done my TA, because I was doing this before I had Bookmap. Now I add Bookmap and I can see. So it was like Bookmap just really, um, it was kind of like I was a doctor who was blindly operating, and then I was given infrared goggles that like, or X-ray vision, and I can now see behind. So I was doing pretty good. I due to just years of putting in price action, right? So one thing is I probably would have been able to accelerate my trading a little faster with Bookmap, because what I had to learn without Bookmap took just years of staring at, market liquidity, You could do things like I kind of do things the hard way. You can do things the easier. Like some people understand algorithms, understand a flow. They understand like one couple way to trade in a couple years, start adding some bots and figure out. Or you could just do everything like I did until you know it, until you just kind of get like you could just cover it all like a madman, So I kind of fell into trading in a very untraditional manner and slowly added the traditional sauce, but just kept kind of doing different things. And self-taught is the best way too. There's some painters that have never been in a professional painting class in their life, right? But they're still considered some of the best painters. And then there's people that have tried on, and I heard will never be that known and have gone to hundreds of painting classes, right? So it just, I believe your desire and your passion for something will definitely facilitate the ability to become better at it, So never worry about the fear of knowledge. If anything, worry about the fear of passion, and I have no fear anyway, but when you start losing the passion for life, when you get up and you don't feel like getting up, that's when you should figure out, that's when, because you won't be able to be good at anything in life if you don't have that want to make it happen. So, I try to bring that into that's what I think Bruce was kind of conveying at the beginning. Like most people might just do a webinar and they won't mention stuff like this. They'll just kind of talk about numbers and the chart. And I think that's great. I'm not even hating on that. I think I get a lot out of that. Sometimes I don't want to hear mixed signals, but whenever I'm around, you're going to get kind of, I'm going to mix both a little bit of what we talk about in the charts and a little bit about mentality and energy, because how you feel about the charts, you could have Bookmap in your back pocket all day long, but I'm the type of guy, every time I sell, the price goes up. Every time I buy, the price goes down. If you have that mentality, then it's going to be hard. So keeping a positive mindset is literally at least 60% of the battle, and then you got to begin to add the skill and add the education. So, like today, if you're looking at Bookmap with me, I would be surprised if we don't end up somewhere in the low 29,000s later on today, right? And I'm already kind of starting to build. Now, again, we could come down here and bounce, and if we get back above the zone and use that as support, then I know that we retested this area. But right now, Bitcoin has now created a new area of resistance that it didn't have before. Like this morning, we woke up and we had lost 30,000, or even yesterday, 30,300. Then it was this level because we wicked to it twice. Then it was this level here, 29,990. And now we've lost this previous bounce becomes, so that previous support becomes new resistance now. And now you've lost. So that is a great retest for a possible place to add maybe a stop loss above it. And so that I'm using Bookmap, I believe, in a simple manner, and again, one thing that's a little more complex about it is I understand how, I can't tell you exactly, but I can sense when the liquidations are getting towards their end because I've seen so many of them. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if you throw a bunch of fish out to the sharks and you watch them, and you're like, all right, it usually takes them 5 or 10 minutes to devour each of these, like this batch of fish, kind of morbid, but so don't become a chopped up fish. And I can't tell you how many times we're on my live, and it's usually the 7-minute time frame, and I'm giving you guys a kind of little secret sauce here. Like today, when the longs, if and who knows, it may not happen for sure, but if and when the longs do get liquidated, right? We're gonna wonder why, right? We're gonna be like, couldn't they have seen couldn't they have just like Bookmap's $50, like, right? It's like, it's right, it's or come to my live stream where I'm doing this every single day, right? Constant. I can't tell you. We have watched in my live stream in the last 2 years. I'd have to say, I can't say the last 2 years but since I've had Bookmap, almost I think a year and a half almost. Like we have watched. I'd have to say at least 100. I want to say 200 liquidations. You know, like even more. Actually, probably maybe more than that. But days where like for a couple hours, an hour or two, we just watch massive, short squeezes. And before the short squeeze, there was just so much like red and yellow liquidity above us, and we were like, "Well, what do you?" And you're like, "Wow, if people could just understand Bookmap and use it for like 2 to 3 months." I mean, we don't want everyone to have Bookmap, I guess, because we need to see them get liquidated. It's a double-edged sword, right? But we do want everyone to have Bookmap too, though, right? Because I want the product to sell, and I want to be I like being a brand ambassador for Bookmap, but it's interesting. I always wonder. I'm like, man, and then I really feel blessed. That God blessed me with this. Now I'm like, because on my live stream and my trading group isn't getting liquidated on days when the market's, and we look like the people that chose the right decision, and all we do is use the probability. Probability just plays out pretty well, right? And the system I use works because you can see it's years of following price action and then filling in the data behind that price action, which it makes sense. Even when I'm talking with each and every one of you today, it makes sense, So the only thing that had me going was like there was a really strong bullish divergence here on the 1 hour time frame. I guess I got frozen for a second. Swing up right there, and this swings down. However, it was weird. We got the push up, and then we lost it again. It's rare you get like a double bullish divergence, especially on the 1 hour like this. It may still get the bounce, but that's a little weird, It's almost like we had it and then we lost it again, and then we tried to make it again, and we didn't. It really isn't too strong now. They're both kind of slanting down, so. We lost the key level right there. We lost 30K, and then 29,800 even. 29.5 was likely. We dipped down to 29.5. I mean, we hit it a place that I thought we would go to too as well. So that's kind of like that's what I'm doing, over time with Bookmap. I mean, the more unique, so anyone can kind of do this. The more unique thing that I do is fine. I can assess once I see liquidations, and then key areas of support and resistance, and then some some divergences. I have a higher probability of figuring out where the market has finished its dumps. I'm pretty good at it. Like we'll be live streaming, and I'll call like this dumb here. You'll see me. Sometimes I even make a quick leverage trade. I don't usually risk a lot, but I just I'll throw in there to see if I can call the bounce. And a lot of we've done it on the live stream many times, but it's because I really study my divergences, and Bookmap helps me with understanding where we most likely have liquidated most people. You can just see it. I mean, there's chunks and chunks. Like eventually, you go through most of the people that were short, and you're gonna have to kind of either build that get them to basically believe in a short again, and build that confidence back into them, and induce them to go short yet again. Sometimes by even just one spike of a green candle up makes them think that it's perfect time to short. Lately, a lot of the rallies we've been seeing have been definitely short induced, and just people are still indifferent to the market. I'm firmly believe, because I'm a divergence trader and the weekly has bullish divergence, which I back tested on 5 of the major assets that that basically have clout, like the Dow Jones, S&P 500, the DXY, Tesla, anything that has a really long, substantial chart where I can put the weekly on. If I've ever found weekly divergence, it's usually one every 5 to 7 years on any of these charts. And every time I found it, it has marked the bottom on any of these indicators. And I found it on Bitcoin, and to me, it tells me that Bitcoin is bottomed at that 15.8. Do we challenge 25 again? We go to 19K. You know, I'm open minded to anything. And again, there could be some black swan event, but just a little alpha about me and my channel here. Like I have been, you know, and I guess I'll go down with the ship if it isn't the bottom. And I'll just have to say, and again, I don't try to say, hey, I know it all. This has to be the bottom. You'll come to my channel and I'll just go over the weekly divergence and I'll show it to you yourself. And then I'll ask you, what do you think? And it's really strong data that's really hard to argue against. So who knows? Anything could happen, but I will go on the record uh, with the data being my main. You know, not really what I think, I feel, believe, but what the data conveys, and the charts convey to me that Bitcoin has definitely bottomed already in this market cycle. It's just finding its way now as it kind of begins to get itself ready for the halving, and you know, really good place to be in cryptocurrency right now too. Shout out to anyone that's here at this webinar. You know, if you're new, just learning about Bookmap, if you just love Bookmap and you're part of the community, great time to be in cryptocurrency, because so many people get into crypto when it's really known, right? And they don't know what it is, and some of them people I just took a shot and they're like, yeah, I bought my first Bitcoin, it was 69,000. They didn't even know, not the whole thing. Maybe they even put $500, you know, and then they watch it go down to $300, $200, $180. Like, that was my $500. You know, Bitcoin was supposed to be the answer. Get me out of financial, you know, get me to financial freedom, right? So this is such a good time for us to be doing webinars. It's a good time for Bookmap to be doing what they're doing and always kind of making new creative ways to get their word out there. And it's a good time for all of us to be educating ourselves, because the market will rally, a lot of money will come in, and the more tools you have to gain financial freedom from that rally is important to really hone in on those skills now. All right. Yeah.
So Sam, I'm wondering, like, the way that you're using Bookmap, is it's kind of odd actually. You're using it as a much bigger picture, kind of indicator of liquidity, and then looking at your technical analysis to be driving toward that liquidity.
Yeah.
Is that's what it seems like, at least?
Yeah. 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 I don't. I might use it untraditionally. You know, that's why I don't know. You know, but that's definitely what I do. You know.
Do you ever just do the opposite, like look at Bookmap, and then how that might, on the lower time frame, and how that makes up the technical analysis that you're looking at on your candlestick charts?
Well, I mean, I think you're saying the same thing. I mean, it's like, um, I mean, that's what I loved about Bookmap when I first really got involved in it. Right? Was like when I was like this, right, and I could see a flag, or I could see a double bottom, an inverted head and shoulder, and stuff like that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could begin to kind of see levels where we were likely going to go. But it just so many times, uh, I just see the liquidity go towards the bigger order. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It just, to the point of, it's like 80%. I because I whip up Bookmap every morning and I look at it, and then, you know, so I just I like to see that there's possible orders in my favor. You know what I mean? Once we get into that, I've seen we can trip through it, and then we can add more. You know, we can kind of start to head further up into that zone. Um, One thing I've also noticed is the proximity of liquidity. Like, I've seen a big chunk of liquidity here, but then like a big bar right there, and usually we'll kind of touch that bar first before we come back down and grab the other layer. You know, um, but yeah, I mean, to me, I get so much out of price action on the patterns and the candles themselves. That's funny. I haven't been like zooming in deep to Bookmap as much. I zoom in when I watch the liquidations. I like to see the liquidations at this point. Like there's a liquidation right there, you know. Um,
Yep.
a short, a short liquidation, a couple more short liquidations, right?
Yep. 45,000 or 4,500. Sorry,
And
not too
And so
bad.
the only thing you see is we got that wick, and the only thing I was looking at as was a possible like earlier this morning too was a possible reversal because this is what's called a broadening falling wedge, which technically will break up. It's supposed to break up 60% of the time. Like, can you get that breakout to the upside? That's like the only. But the smaller time frames were rejected us right there. That little flag I wanted to break that zone, but the smaller time frames rejected us, brought us down. Now the 50-minute low. So see the 50-minute hit lower momentum. So I would expect some type of bounce, which is funny, and then you get some short squeezes. I mean, yeah, some short squeezing. But for me, it doesn't look it doesn't look like it's gonna go that long. And again, I could be wrong, but I don't anticipate us getting back to 30K in this junction. Like all of a sudden. It looks like that was just a kind of a little pocket, and I'm also wondering, and I mean, a little off topic, but is the rate hike baked in or not? And what are we going to see on the 26th? As we come 8 days into the rate hike. So I tend to see volume get squeezed a little bit up until a week before a rate hike, where people are just tighter with their wallet on their trades. And so you get these like just tiny little kind of moves here and there. So
Yeah. Is there a particular amount that you're looking for, like in the liquidations, that might give you tip your direction?
well, like generally I'll see one, then two, and usually you'll get three or four in a row, you know? Um and on a, I guess like a natural, like you watch so many of them, but you'll get more of a vertical move further to the upside, um kind of in succession. And then I want to see a lull, and then I like to see like another one of those. And usually by that time, it's pretty exhausted, and uh, again, what I'll find again is I'll go to a smaller time frame, like the one sometime. If the market's moving really fast, the one, and I'll look for a flag, and we'll go sideways. And if the flag completes, it's funny. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, here's the flag, and we trade the flag, and then we watch the liquidations happen again, you know, and the liquidations will follow the technical analysis. Pretty awesome. Yeah, it's like I can kind of almost predict when I'm going to see people get liquidated. You know what I mean? Like not 100%, but pretty like 80% of the time, I can get a pretty good sense. I mean, there I couldn't see it per se, right? I mean, but you could see there's a bounce there on the 15, right? What you will like, what I do know now is like, say we just somehow get a burst of liquidity. I don't see it, but we could. The second, if we do burst through here, boom, that will be a huge short liquidation. Like you'll see it. Like if we get above that zone and do a little retest and some like a 5 minute or 1 minute, and then I could see just, and then you'll see another massive short liquidation. We are consolidating here a little bit, which is you see this is basically like watching a flag, like I think you're saying, and you're starting to see price action begin to, say, hey, I don't mind this area, right? Like we were lower before. I want to see if we can hold. And there is a slight divergence here, on the you see this. The divergence should tell you when you've liquidated most of the long. So this swing down, and the RSI swings up. That should hold what I found about these is you should like slowly get up there throughout the day, but you may still get rejected by the same. You know, you eventually have to get back above the support and resistance zone. You know, so like unless we break above these two humps here, like I still just remain short for the rest of the day. 29,973. You know, if we break above that and possibly retest, and I'd even be looking for more like, you know, we'd have to break above this diagonal trend line too as well. This bigger one that I have drawn for me to like really want to long the market. It's really like smart, in my opinion, not to touch along until we get back above 30,300, which is the weekly support and resistance level that I've been watching. Um, but Bookmap now does show you like, okay, all right, uh, you know, we're flattening out a little bit, you know, and again, like that right there, you'll be able to see as like if you want to see it on in the candle bodies. You can zoom in and like you should be making a little flag on like the 1 minute time frame. And if the 1 minute can stay above the 21 SMA, that's another kind of little trick that I use. Like, and you know, chance you could scalp this. You know, to me the volume's been tight, and moves like this have been tougher than they are. You know, even just a month or two ago. I tell people it's sad. I don't want to like boost business, but summer trading just been tight. I've now traded through like 4 summers, like almost every day, and uh, it's definitely not the same as trading in like the fall or in the wintertime. You know.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. It's good about crypto because there's coins that are at a very low price where people aren't paying attention to them, you know, and it only takes such little liquidity to get them up again. And then there's a difference between a 50x and a 10x or a 20x. So it's always a really good time to, it really benefits someone who's willing to hold a pretty good amount of time and do some good research. Like this is like the best time, you know. Like normally this could get followed by another set of liquidation, but I could just tell that it was flat. Like we just don't have the volume, you know. Now again, this 1 minute makes a beautiful flag starts to show you that now you know you're gaining probability now. All right, and now you'd see this break out, and then you'll watch the short liquidations, right? So I kind of use patterns because again, price can't go wherever it wants. It has to follow some type of movement, and it has to follow a pattern, right? It can't just like zigzag, wick around, make a circle, make two circles. You know, like it doesn't do that. That's not price is never. Price will come down, eventually make a bear flag, or eventually make an inverted head and shoulder, or make some type of double bottom. Then it will break back up. You know, um, so
Yeah, one of the interesting things that we've seen on the liquidation indicator, which is a magical indicator. I mean, like I hate to even call it an indicator. It just is giving you just raw data of
yeah, yeah, yeah.
exchanges liquidating people's positions because they're getting a margin call. Um, but which I still just can't believe that they give that information. Nonetheless, it's like on this. Here's 45,000. All right. Well, let's see if price trades a little bit higher. Does it still start to liquidate? If it doesn't, then you can get a divergence there in liquidation. You know, maybe it has like a couple thousand or something, and then you know price has gone higher and it can't find more liquidations. So at
You
that,
know, that's something you taught me that like you know yeah, sorry, continue, but yeah, you definitely pointed that out to me.
yeah, and a lot of time, I mean, it's just like it just kind of. I mean, I'm not a crypto trader like you. But I've noticed that the markets, you know, from my perspective at least, I find crypto a little harder to analyze because a lot of times you get these liquidations and then these short and long squeezes, and then it'll just go to the other side of the range and then do the same thing. and then back in the middle, and then the other side, and do the same thing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, and um, just the other day, I mean, we had that beautiful green candle, right? XRP won the case. It looked like great, and then the next day gave it all back. It was just like I was like, where did $40 billion come in and out of the market like that? You know, it's like, uh,
Yeah, totally. Um, yeah, the crypto markets are just, I don't know. They're a strange animal for me. That's what I find, at least. Like, uh, kind of a little doing their own thing, kind of detached.
a cool metaphor I have is like, my dad had a lot of old cars, or like he liked used cars, and like, I was born in 1983, so right at the end of my life, maybe when maybe I drove like my grandpa's car once on his lap or something, but you know, cars had no real, the steering was loose and they were all over the place, right? But you got better at something when, if you drove it a lot, and so like crypto's all over the place, but like you kind of get better at it if you drive it all the time. It's like you almost get used to the volatility, or you get better at feeling out when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. And um, like right now, this little flag does suggest we're about to see some more short liquidations, right? Like another little trick is like we like to pump up to the 200 SMA. A lot of times, if I see space, the moving averages get tight, and then I'll see space, and the 200 will be away by itself. I can almost tell like 90% of the time there's going to be a liquidation, and because I guess the whale bot, whatever they do, they like to trade up to the 200 SMA. They love to pump price up to that, and they do it on all time frames. I've seen it the 5 to 10, 15. Heck, I've seen it even on the bigger time frames. It just takes way longer to play out. A lot of things identified on like a smaller time frame, and then I would check it, on the weekly. Like I back tested the 15 and the 1, and I was just swing trading, day trading, and like I learned to get out of positions whenever you made a substantial space away from the 21-day moving average, right? And so like here it happens right there. Like Bitcoin gets really high, it makes a gap away from the white line here, which is my 21-day SMA, my simple 21, and that's the time to take some profits. Every rarely, like only 5 to 10% of the time, probably even less, will the price continue to rally? Like it's just very rare. So fine, like I'd rather have a probability signal that I take that's right most of the time, and then if a couple times it's wrong, then oh well. So um, point I'm saying that this is somewhat long-winded, but Bitcoin pumped on the weekly, right? And I put on the moving averages, and look, the weekly got high away from the 21. And so when we were here, I was calling a top because I had back tested it. Now I had never tested it on the weekly yet. I had back tested this theory on the hour, the 4 hour, the 15, the 1, like every time frame. And what I kept learning was once I learned something on one time frame, it became true on the all the others. So once I learned that something I knew on the 1 was true on the 4, then I knew it had to be true on the weekly, right? And so then I was able to, and then there was a bearish divergence, but I was able to call this top. And I'm like, I didn't say, oh, we're definitely going down all the way to blah blah blah, but I basically said, hey, we're too far away from the 21-day moving average. And that came from smaller time frames. It's just interesting how things you learn on the smaller time frames can then teach you things on the bigger time frame, and vice versa in a way. And so I always tell people, like, keep experimenting, keep charting. Some of the things I never thought, I was just daydreaming, swinging around, like playing with stuff. Ended up becoming some market data that I could use later on. But at the time, I just thought I was just playing around. So
Yeah, yeah, makes
like,
sense.
see this candle starting to break out now, like, and if I see a whole slew of short liquidations now, like, I mean, that's what I believe is about to happen right now, right? It's highly likely um, that we're about to see a short squeeze. And it's because I knew the pattern. I knew the probability of the pattern and where the momentum indicator was. And again, maybe it won't. I can't. I wish I could be like yes, but like I can even get a sense of how the balls. This is crazy. I watch this ball so much, like it'll like start to shake violently, usually before liquidation. See, there it goes, right there. See, I was able to call that short liquidation. Right? Like, whatever. I'm not like a magician or whatever, but uh, see, I was able to figure this was going to happen before it happened, right? Um, And this is how many times I've been on my live and I've been watching people get liquidated. And I'm like, man, if I could just tutor them for one day and like, if I could give them a little bit of my knowledge, like, look at all these accounts that I just saw get liquidated. But if they were sitting here at this Bookmap webinar, right, I would have told them this flag was likely coming to this 200 SMA, right? I don't know. I feel bad when I watch people lose their accounts. You know what I mean? Like when I can see that's what I wouldn't do that. Like I wouldn't do what they're doing and they're losing their money, you know? So I don't know.
Oh, it's horrible to see it. I mean, it's so sad. On the other hand, though, it's showing you the behavior of traders. I mean, like very clearly, they're over leveraged, and this is what happens. They're getting price moves and stops people out, which is the buying. A lot of the buying is the liquidations, and then it retests and it can't find any more fuel for that fire. Kind of reverses around, goes the other way, and liquidates to the downside. And
Yeah, exactly. You taught me to, I used to think that the market was going to do what it wanted and then like people just got swept in it. But I realize it's more like it's like a bird that's like, like a bird's above looking for what it's going to eat. And if it sees a school of fish, like that's where it's going to go. Like people don't realize like retail basically seals their own fate in a way, right? Um, like they all start doing the same thing and then they create the liquidity for the market maker to go after them in a way. I realize it's like a real time cat and mouse game. Before I thought it was more like a market maker setting things, but you made me realize it's more of like it's a living being that's like always kind of traveling for the nearest liquidity zone. Like you just want to try to ride that, um, right? But like you just said, right? Look, here's a great example of what you talked about, right? So we came up and we liquidated 20,000, and then we tried to come up again. We got a little higher, but we liquidated less people, right? So it's a divergence in the amount of. So it says that rally was kind of short lived, right? And you can see and when it's funny, where did we go to? Right, basically you'll get rejected right near the 200 SMA. It's so insane how many times I've seen that little move. You know, technically I wish I could have traded that right for 10x leverage and just made a percent, right? Call it a day. Like so that's kind of what I do a lot on my channel. What I teach people is how to exploit the smaller time frames using patterns and bookmap. Um, and other people's short liquidity, thank God, right? I mean, I guess we need them to do that. So
yeah, yeah, no, nice calls.
that's cool that happened right now. So that's kind of like that's a lot of what happens. That's how I basically show the product off a lot. You know, um, at the end of the day, however anyone uses Bookmap, it should keep them from. It should make them money and keep them from losing money, right? And that's how I use it, right? Uh, to be on the right side of the trade, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, well, Sam, you've been going for over an hour now, so I
yeah.
don't see any questions in YouTube. Let me check over in Discord. There's no questions. We can wrap it up. So no, and well, let me just mention here again. Really happy to have you, Sam. I always really enjoy your analysis and also your just a great attitude. So looking forward to the stream every Tuesday at 1. And yeah, we'll just let me know if you have any questions, you need anything. I'm here to help you and support you. So we'll just move forward here. We got the channel set up for you. And next time I'll show you also I'll give you the YouTube streaming key and all that. So you'll be able to do it live right from your own machine there.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to sit with you maybe 1 hour. I think yesterday I was, but if I could book 1 hour, like a half an hour or an hour with you, sometimes in the next couple of weeks, just to like go over some of the new stuff you got and some of the other things, just to see if there's something else I could be doing. Or
Oh God,
that's all. I'll,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Anytime, just reach out, hit me up anytime.
Okay. All right. I will.
Yeah.
I'll hit you up in Discord. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Bruce. I appreciate it, man. God bless you.
Thank you, Sam.
Have a great day.
You too.
And thank you, Bookmap.
Take care.